Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Reality Realm, where we talk about everything dealing with our reality and our concept of what's real. I'm Mark Johnson, along with our host, Irene Allen Block. Or is it
Hello.
just Irene Allen?
Oh gosh, I couldn't talk then. It's just, I don't know. I'm Irene Allen. I'm Irene Allen Block. I'm number of names, so just go on. Anyone.
Yeah, especially quite a few I've made up for you.
Yeah, yeah. Tweedledum.
Mhm. Well, it's good to be back. We were off for a couple of weeks due to unforeseen circumstances. Life intervenes, and but we're back, and we're
You're
back in
so
a
polite. You really are so polite.
so
I could have
polite.
just said, right, so we've been away. Okay, then that's it. Finished. None of nobody's business. It's just me and you. We've been away.
Yep, we've been away.
But you're so polite. You
Well,
say it's so sweet and so nice.
I try to.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, um, but we're back, and well, we're back in a big way. Not just with the show, and that's going to be part of our discussion for tonight. But, before we get on with that, how have you been?
I don't know. I'm waiting on results from the hospital. Do you know, I keep phoning them up for the results, and they keep saying, "We get someone to ring you back as soon as the doctor has reviewed the scans and this, and we'll ring you back tomorrow." And well, when I ring them again tomorrow to ask the same question, it'd be the third time of ringing them. If they don't answer or give me an answer tomorrow, I'm going down the hospital to find out for myself.
Yeah. Welcome to modern medical in both of our countries.
Yeah.
It took me 3 weeks to get the blood test results, routine blood test results. Took 3 weeks when it was supposed to take less than a week.
Yeah.
And my doctor's office just delayed and delayed and delayed. And then my doctor, when I finally got her to call me back, tried blaming me. And she was so rude. It's like, you know what? I'm not coming back to you. It's ridiculous. And then they couldn't get off the phone fast enough because at the time I did not have insurance, and because I'm self-pay, she wanted to get off the phone because hey, she wanted to talk to more paying clients. It's ridiculous. Don't get me. I could do a whole rant on the medical systems, uh, but that's not that kind of show. Anyway, as for myself, I'm doing okay.
I
And
didn't ask you.
no, but I asked
I
you,
didn't
so
ask
I'm
you.
just
Oh, all right.
jumping in there.
Mark, how are you?
Oh,
How
is
are
this a
you, Mark?
time travel show? Because I answer the
Mm.
question before you ask it.
Oh, well, I'm able to do that, so why can't you?
Yeah, I know. You're scary in that way.
Scary in many ways.
Yes, I know. I've known you for too long. God help me. So anyway,
I've put
we're
you right off now, haven't I? How are you, Mark?
I am peachy, thank you.
Oh, that's good.
Well,
Right.
let's go
Peachy.
about. We're going to talk about
Yes.
uh paranormal investigations.
Mm. Oh,
Specifically,
excitement overwhelms me.
haha. Well, we've both been kind of out of the field for a few years now. Um, Someone referred to me recently as retired. I said, no, I'm semi-retired, but quite frankly,
I was the one that was retired.
you were fully
Mm.
retired.
Yes, I was.
But I'm coming out of retirement because
Mhm.
I still enjoy doing it, and I'm getting more opportunities now to go investigate again.
Oh, sorry, that's my chair. Mm.
I'm glad you said it was your chair because it sounded like something else.
Slipping on the floor. I'm not that windy.
Yeah. I was going to blame Gertie there for a moment.
Yeah, she was windy last night. Anyway.
Anyway, yeah, so I'm getting back into it and you're getting back into it as well.
Yeah, because I'm not big for the same reasons as you, but maybe because I'm a little bit more concerned about what's going on and the fact that I'm bored.
You and
Yeah.
you and me both. I'm still struggling to find work. And I've because of everything I've gone through the last couple of years, my enthusiasm for things was in the toilet, but now that time has passed, I want to get back on that horse and get out there. And I recently, this last weekend, had an opportunity to go work on my first case in a couple of years.
And small, tell us more.
Well, I was invited by a former member of my paranormal group that I used to run, North Jersey Paranormal Research, and who's a realtor now, was actually my realtor for selling my house a few months back. And she had a couple of realtors that she works for who are flipping a house back up in the old area where I used to live. And they were supposedly having a lot of paranormal issues. And they wanted an investigation. So she invited me up to participate. And of course, I brought Natalie with me because whenever I've been investigating,
You better explain who Natalie is.
Well, Natalie is my friend. She's also a former client. We investigated her house a few years back. She got hooked, joined us, and has kind of been my local go-to investigator for the past few years. Really good head on her shoulders. She's a good investigator.
Lovely person.
What's that?
She's a lovely person.
Oh, she's totally wonderful. I love working with her, and I consider her a good friend. So
she's one of the best.
So we went up to this house, which is currently under renovation. They're flipping the house to resell it. And I'm going to keep details at a minimum because, again, not my business. They're selling the house. But they were having issues with windows opening and closing, people being touched, hearing voices and footsteps, hearing what they said was a growl. And just general negative feelings. Now, I may be out of the actual investigation portion for the last few years. That doesn't mean my researching and looking into and understanding the paranormal stopped back then. I've always still
Well, you've still got the knowledge, haven't you, darling?
Well, I'm still learning. Every day
you've still got the knowledge as well. Just because you give up for a couple of years, don't mean to say you forget everything that you've taught yourself or learned.
But again, look at in our discussions and things that have happened to us over the last couple of years. I mean, I'll speak from my perspective. I've learned a lot more. And I've learned also quickly while doing this investigation that I'm not like most investigators anymore. And that was really made clear to me when coming into this case, because the people I was with, they're still going about things the exact same way they did 20 years ago when I first got into this field. They haven't changed. You know, one of them is supposed to be a really experienced investigator. And I'm not personally attacking anybody here, but I see a difference between how some people, in fact, I feel it's a majority of people in the community, how they approach these types of phenomena compared to how I approach it. Am I saying my way is better? I think so.
More thorough by what I've seen.
It's different because I'm looking at a broader spectrum. I'm not so close-minded and sticking with old beliefs because you learn as you grow and things evolve over time. And the more we look at, and it goes right into the concept of this particular show, the reality realm. It's examining different aspects of our reality or what we think is our reality. And our current views of reality are very elementary compared to what's really going on around us. In a lot of cases, we just don't want to know. We have our certain paradigm and we stick with it. Anything else outside of that paradigm threatens people's belief systems and they reject it or even get hostile. So, coming into this investigation, I was coming into it from the standpoint of let's see what's there first. These other investigators went in right away with preconceived notions, not even taking the time to research, to investigate properly, and figure out what they're dealing with first. Case in point, one investigator asked me, well, can you bring some sage with you and we can sage the house? And I said, no, because I question the validity of sage. And second, if so many times you hear stories of people using sage or whatnot and trying to cleanse a house, and maybe things calm down for a day or two, and then it comes back twice as bad. So, no, I won't sage. I want to know what I'm dealing with first. And that's what I feel is true investigation. It's not just going into a place, capturing a couple of EVPs or setting up video or whatnot, walking through, taking pictures, and then you turn around and leave, and then nothing else happens. I'm afraid that's what's going to happen with this case. It wasn't my investigation. I had to go and pretty much keep my mouth shut for most of it because I wasn't running it. If I did, it would have been completely different. I'm the only one who brought equipment, and I'm not the biggest fan of equipment sometimes because I think we need to rely on our own bodies and our own senses. However, it's great as a backup tool to either help validate some of your feelings or maybe give you a little further information. But try to figure out what's going on. What's the history of the house? What's happening? And so many times, and this is where I break off from a lot of investigators, a lot of times they go right back to the old tried and true. Well, who died in the house? Who's stuck there? We're dealing with a person who hasn't moved on. And I'm sitting there going, you're making a lot of assumptions. Now, we know that when these two people bought the house, they had squatters that were in there for a couple of years, and it took them months to get them out. And there was a lot of bad things that happened there. Now, is the activity in relation to the type of people and bad things that happened there? Or has it always been there? Has it been there before the house was built in the 1920s? Because it was all farmland. And up here in northern New Jersey, lot of Indian locations, burial sites, which that's a different topic, but there was a lot of presences up here, and things happened before the whites came in and settled. So there's a long history to the land. So what could possibly be attached to the land is the way I look at it. And the house just happens to sit on the land. Is anybody else in the neighborhood having issues? We don't know. And it's one of those times where you really can't go and knock on somebody's door next door and go, pardon me, are you having any paranormal activity?
Not unless you're me, of course.
Well,
I
yeah,
would.
you would do that, but out here it's
I
like,
don't care.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think these people trying to flip and sell a house want that to get out.
Mm.
So, I have some moral qualms about that too. So, I mean, what do you do in this situation? If I had my way, there would be multiple investigations looking into every aspect of what people are feeling, going into the house and feeling what's happening. And I will say, when we were there, felt a very, very heavy presence in several locations of the house, especially the basement, and even outside on the property. The owners had were outside and they heard what sounded like Elmo talking, and they walked over into the woods, and in the bushes was an old Elmo doll that was talking, and then all of a sudden started this laughing like Elmo does, but it was over and over and over again. Very creepy. So when I got to the property, first thing I did is go and look at it to see, somebody placed that there, some kids, maybe local kids or something, put it there. Um, and it was obvious by the condition of the doll that it had been there for quite a while, possibly months or longer. Very succumbing to the elements, the weather, half buried, stuffing mostly gone out of it. But I didn't check to see if it had batteries because when I was standing there, I felt such an oppressive energy. I didn't want to touch it. So it's still lying there. Now, maybe some people would criticize me as an investigator. You should have, looked to see if it had batteries or what was happening. Sometimes, sometimes you have to have discretion. In that case, I felt like I shouldn't touch it.
Yeah, not do that, but if it's been laying there some time and it's wet and all manky, you don't want to pick it up, do you?
No, not unless I had gloves or a stick or something. And
Mm,
yeah, I would like to see if it had batteries. If it's been out there in the elements for months, usually batteries drain. So why? And it's also motion activated, I think,
yeah.
or you have to press a button on it. And but it started operating all on its own. And they were standing a few feet away. They recorded it with their cell phone. And they went looking for the sound, and that's when they found the Elmo in the bushes.
Mm-hmm.
So that was creepy and interesting, but yet there's also this, how do I put this? Part of popular culture right now is haunted objects, the Annabelle doll, or other objects that can contain a negative presence or energy. And I'm not saying that doesn't happen. I think it does. I think you and I both know an object that definitely has some kind of energy to it.
But that little circular thing of mine, yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes. But
It's high in energy.
but at this that's why I'm reluctant to touch it. Um but I also don't want to put too much stock in it because I don't think that object is what the problem is. I think the problem is associated with the land.
Can
Walking
I ask a question, Mark, before you
abs-
go on?
absolutely.
Now, this place, from what I saw in my head, was full of rubbish. Absolutely, like everyone has just got up and left it all over the place, and as if people had come in there and chucked it all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Every room was full of
Yep.
rubbish.
Yep.
Excuse the language. It's all right, I've got a biscuit in my mouth. Sorry. But when we get rid of rubbish in the house here, we normally hire a skip, which is a massive, great big container that comes on a lorry.
Yes.
And they lower it down and put it where you want it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you fill up the skip and phone them up. The lorry comes back, collects the skip and takes it off, right?
Yes.
Do you have something like that up there?
That's exactly what they did.
Okay, and where was the skip placed? Whereabouts?
It,
Do you know where the skip was placed?
it was placed in the driveway. If you're facing the house, it's on the left-hand side on a gravel driveway right next to the house. And
Okay.
when they bought the house and they got the squatters out, the property was filled with rubbish everywhere. They
Okay.
said the place was disgustingly filthy and they had to get rid of all of that
Yeah, I
stuff.
know. I saw it. It was terrible.
So they
But
had to haul it away so that they could begin renovating the house.
okay. So how far away was the skip from where Elmo is now?
Uh, you have to walk to the back part of the house, go through a fence, and then go up a little hill
Yeah.
and was in the bushes in the back. So yeah, from the
So
skiff, I would say it's at least 200, 250 feet away.
yeah, I'm not saying that this happens, right, or anything like that. It could have been somebody that's put that Elmo there for a reason, or it could have been somebody who's chucked it in the skip. It's missed the skip. Nighttime comes, animal comes along and drags it off, and that's why half its stuffing was out.
Could be.
So
Yeah,
gotta
who
look
knows?
into things. Yeah, you can't put everything down, can you? To paranormal. This is what we're trying to say.
Right.
This is how we research, and this is how we think when we're doing stuff.
Well,
And
you
like you said,
have to you have
also
to. I'm
beside
sorry.
looking at the house, also like you said, beside looking at the house, we look at the not only the history but the geography of the land, everything, what's going on over there, and before we even decide it's a bloody haunting.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes us, you and me, different to
Well,
most people that just go
one
around get sage and flutter it everywhere. When you can buy something out of bloody Dunhelm that'll smell nice in a house.
well, here's something that I
Perfume
did.
candles.
I had a trail camera. So
Mm.
I strapped it to a tree pointing at where the bushes where
Oh.
the Elmo is. And
Mm-hmm.
I've left it running since we did the investigation, and I'm going to wait till the weekend. So it's going to be sitting there an entire week. I'm waiting till the weekend before I go and pick it back up, just to
Mm-hmm.
see if anything. It's set for motion video, infrared,
Yes.
night vision. So any animals that walk by it should pick up. If anything else happens, I'm hoping it picks it up.
Yeah.
But something else I'm going to do too, because it got dark and everyone was a little creeped out. Nobody sat out there at night doing any kind of recording EVP or just spending some time there,
Yeah.
which I plan to do when I go back to get it. I'm not just going to grab the camera and go home. I'm going to go sit there, feel the place out, take a digital recorder at the very least, and try to see if I can get more information because I'm certainly not satisfied with what we caught so far, which I'm going to admit we caught a lot of audio evidence, a little bit of video. I'm still reviewing some things. There's something definitely going on there, but I still can't sit there and tell you what it is. And
Yeah.
so going in now and doing a cleansing or anything is
Premature.
premature.
Mm.
It's like, do you pay to have your whole house fumigated if you just suspect there's termites in the wall, or do you actually go and look for them?
Yeah.
So, and that's where my issues come in.
But
And
also, yeah, go on.
no, go ahead.
No, you go on. I'm being polite now. Go
You're being
on.
polite now.
Yeah.
Well, I'm waffling a bit.
No, you're not. I'll tell you when you're waffling, you know that.
Okay. Yeah,
Well,
you keep me on my toes.
yeah.
The things that we caught, there were a lot of voices caught on
Mm-hmm.
digital. But I'm stammering a lot because, again, I'm not trying to be critical of anybody, but I do disagree. and I disagree with how that whole investigation was handled. And all it was,
I wouldn't have called it an investigation, actually. I would have called it a get-together.
yeah, it was more of a let's get together and see what we can experience. Not
A bit
looking
fun, yeah.
into
It's
an investigation.
entertainment.
Exactly. It's not looking for and trying to find an answer to what's there. They think running a digital recorder and asking questions will tell them everything they need to know. It doesn't solve the problem. And this is something, and I admit in my earlier career, I was guilty of the exact same thing. We were more enthusiasts than investigators. I'll call a spade a spade. We went into locations with our equipment, we record things. Sometimes we get nothing, sometimes we get some great stuff, share it with the client, who's usually a private homeowner or whatnot, and then we leave. What good have we done? Nothing. We never helped.
That was before you met me.
Yeah, true. It was. And I started getting disillusioned with all these ghost shows who always say, yes, we're coming in to help. Well, what have you helped with? Not a damn thing. You come in with your camera crews and whatnot, make investigation look scary and exciting when in most cases it's insanely boring and nothing happens. You just not helping them at all. What happens? You move on to the next episode. And as someone who's actually, unfortunately, has been on a couple of these shows, and I've seen exactly how they handle situations, especially the production companies who are.
And for moi, I have been on the shows, and I know exactly how they handle it as well.
Yeah. They are not interested in solving people's problems or helping people. All they care about is trying to make things as creepy and scary as possible to keep viewers. That's it. They're not there to solve anybody's problems.
Bums on seats, darling. That's what it's all about. Bums on seats.
Which is money. It's all money driven.
Yeah.
I never charged for an investigation.
They don't care about the people. They don't, it's get your stuff on the camera, get out, walk, forget them.
Well, I've never charged for an investigation.
I used to know somebody that was on the television quite a lot, and they went to a friend's house, and this friend, after the so-called clearing that this person done, nothing changed. So I contacted them, and this just sent them a couple of crystals. Get on with it. So I had to go in and do it.
And it's bad when you have to go in and clean up somebody else's mess.
Oh, I hate that.
I'm not going to have another opportunity to get into this house to do much of anything. So it wasn't a real investigation in my mind.
But the people that have obviously got the house are not interested. They're selling it. It's just money.
They're flipping it. They were interested in the paranormal, and so they wanted somebody to come in, and then they sat there with us.
Or were they just wanted a night of entertainment?
Yes. To both statements.
Yeah. Well, that's it.
And they claim to have another house.
Sadly, that happens.
They claim to have another house that has even more activity and wants us to come in and investigate. And quite frankly, while part of me would love to, not if the same people are going to be there. Because I would not do that again because I was embarrassed. I disagreed with everything that went on because it wasn't doing anything in investigation. It was just entertainment. Let's try to catch some EVPs and listen. Ooh, I think I heard this. I think I heard that. Oh, and then bringing out a phone app that makes those
My grandchild's got a lot of them. It goes around the house.
It throws out a lot of sounds that sound
It
like
makes
human
sound.
speech. Maybe occasionally you'll get a voice out of it and you have to sort through it. I hate that device.
Yeah.
And because it's so unreliable, it's not funny. You
Was
know
it
what's
that
fun?
device that called my name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Irene's name was mentioned.
Several times in different
Hmm.
EVPs.
Mine
Yeah.
was too.
Oh, yeah,
They
yours was too.
they
But
said my name a couple of times.
well, the strange thing about that was that the Rene that stands for Irene, or Rene that stands for Irene, has been used over the years. When I was a kid, everyone used to call me that because it's the old-fashioned way of calling my name, no?
Mm-hmm.
And if they didn't call me that, they started singing that song to me, Irene, Goodnight, Irene.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when I heard that, my ears pricked up straight away. But then when you sent me the other ones, not only, and I let my husband hear them as well, without telling him, and he said, "That's your name. It's saying your name." There was 2 or 3 that you sent that said Irene. One of them said, "Irene, is it now?" So.
What I found
But
fascinating.
I still feel that this is all to do with energy, though, because I stuck a load of energy, used a lot of energy before you went on that investigation, telling you what that house was like, what it looked like, where, something about a river. I told you about a river that was close
Mm-hmm.
by, and I told you about what I actually saw and the dark shadow and everything. So energy is a strange thing. When you start to concentrate energy into something, even if it's hundreds and hundreds of miles away or thousands of miles away, how do we know that if there is something on there in there, that it's not peaking up, feeling that energy the same way as I, in my kitchen in South Wales, is feeling its energy? You don't know, do you? So,
No.
and that's maybe why it's got my name, blah, 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 and started using my name in those EVPs. But also, like your name was mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about, tell us about your name.
Well, it was using that device, which I find questionable, and it wasn't super clear, although twice I thought I heard it say my name. But again, I doubt this device just because of what it is. It throws out a lot of gibberish
But
with an.
when my name was being called, it was being picked up on your devices.
Well, that was
Yeah.
my going to be my point that I found interesting was I was catching on both my audio recorders and on my video cameras
Hmm.
real EVPs that were
Yeah,
not generated by another device.
that's right.
That's where it caught your name.
Hmm.
And then it caught when we were doing a session in the basement and they pulled out that
Oh, the
device.
snake. The snake.
Yeah.
A
They pulled up
hiss.
there was a couple of strange, weird hisses, growls we
Yeah.
heard that my camera picked up individually of that device. My
Hmm.
recorder picked it up individually. There there was one point where they were using the device and it goes quiet every now and then for a couple of seconds before it starts spouting more gibberish. During one of those quiet moments, my audio recorder caught an audible voice that didn't come from that device saying the
Yeah.
name Renee.
Yeah, that's me.
Th- then a couple
Renee.
moments later, listen, a couple moments later, the device started spouting stuff, and then the device said the word Renee.
Hmm.
So
So yours
you,
picked it up before the toy did.
yes,
What I call
I
a toy.
picked up an EVP before the device spouted out the name by about 3 seconds.
Strange.
Very, very strange.
I've heard of delayed reaction before, but
Well, that's why the idea behind the device is supposedly spiritual energies can manipulate all the gibberish sound to form words. And it was mostly gibberish. And even what words were spoken, I take with a huge grain of salt because it didn't provide any real information.
Yeah.
So.
But also, when it called your name, wasn't it like you heard it as clear as a bell? You said to me that it sounded like it was your voice. Like this thing was mimicking your voice. Well, we do know about mimickers.
It was so quick, but yes, I thought the tone sounded like my own voice.
Mm.
But it was said very quickly, so I'm unsure.
Oh.
So, again, we only spent a little over 2 hours in that house, and the only real investigating was the one paranormal investigator that got everybody. We sat in a circle, and he's recording EVP. It's almost like a little mini seance kind of thing.
And I suppose everybody was talking over everybody else, trying to make out what it was saying, instead of shutting up and being quiet and letting it,
Well, what they would do is we sat in a circle. He would record, and everybody got to ask a question, and then we let a few moments of silence go by. Then the next person asked the question, and once we went in a circle, then they'd stop and then play the recorder back to see if they caught anything. Again, for instant gratification, where I let my recorder just run the entire time. And during that time, while they were trying to listen to what was coming through on his crappy recorder that had a lot of background hiss, room tone, and was not clear at all, my recorder, which was a newer recorder and records clean audio, caught actual EVPs while they were trying to listen to their EVPs. So because they stopped recording just so they can get instant gratification, they missed recording other responses.
Good stuff. Yeah. Well, that shows you the difference between somebody that's knowledgeable and somebody that really is just eye candy on the TV.
I'll probably catch a lot of flack if they ever hear this show, which I doubt they will.
I don't care.
But
I'll catch a lot of flack as well, but I don't bloody care.
Well, I'm saying from them specifically,
70 odd years old. I don't worry about tits like them.
I don't care I don't care how many TV shows you've been on. If you're still doing things wrong, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
Plus, I won't get into the condescending attitude, but of course I just did.
Didn't you?
If I were going to do a real investigation, I would be there for a few hours at tops, split us up into small 1 and 2 person teams, spread out, because it was a large house with 2 floors and a full basement. Most of the activity was on the first floor in the basement. The upper floor didn't really seem like it had much going on at all, but I still also have some more of my video footage to review, which, let me tell you, if you've never done a paranormal investigation, that is the worst part of investigating, because for every camera you set up and let run, and in this case, it was only 2 hours of investigating that these cameras were running. Well, I had 4 different cameras running.
Yeah. So that's 2, 4, 6. That's why I used to have people do it for me.
Well, yeah, but I don't. So I have to be the one to do it. But as an investigator, yeah, that's what you got to do. And it's thankless and it's boring. But occasionally you catch a nugget of something there, whether it's audio or video, visual. One perfect example. And I remember Natalie talking about this on the drive back home, because I picked her up and I dropped her off. And we were talking about the investigation, and we both had similar complaints about things going on. But she said that she was the only one taking still pictures. I mean, even the other people didn't even do that. All they cared about was their little burst EVP sessions. She was taking pictures with her phone, and there was at one point down in the basement where she said she was trying to take a picture, and all of a sudden she saw an orb go streaking across from the ceiling diagonally across her view. Well, what her cell phone camera did is it does like a pre-flash because it thinks you're taking a picture of a person, and it does that to reduce red eye, and then it does the real flash and takes the picture. So in the pre-flash, she sees this anomaly go streak in front of her.
Yeah.
Now, when she originally told me about that, I thought, well, it's possibly dust. Although I will say when reviewing my video, not a lot of dust down there. There one or two times I saw something that I thought was dust. But here's what's fascinating. My video camera recording in the basement she was up against one wall in the back of the basement. My camera was about 20 feet away on the opposite side of the basement, shooting in her direction. And you know what I caught? I caught her anomaly streaking across diagonally from the ceiling during that pre-flash, exactly how she described it.
There you go.
Now, for anyone who wants to sit there and say, well, it's a speck of dust. Well, it must have been a volleyball sized speck of dust, because where it came down was about 7, 8 feet away from Natalie and about 12 feet away from my camera. And a speck of dust usually looks like an orb when it floats very close to the camera, it hits the camera.
It was fairly dry down there as well, wasn't it? So it couldn't have been moisture or anything like that, could it?
No, and even if it was moisture, how would it be caught 12, 13 feet away? I mean, from my camera, it wouldn't have.
No.
Nothing that big. And it moved exactly how she described it before I found it on video. She just saw it with her own eyes. I was able to confirm it. What a difference.
Yeah.
Now, that's where I like equipment, even though I like going in and feeling places, but I like when equipment backs up your personal experiences. It doesn't record feelings though. And we were both feeling a very heavy presence. Now, I'm reluctant to call it negative.
Was the others feeling it as well?
Yes. Yes, they all said that they were feeling it. But then they say they feel it, and then they kind of dismiss it and move on. It's instead of saying what could be causing this, just sitting around a recorder asking a few questions. I mean, we did an EMF sweep. The house was clean of EMF, no EMF around except for the junction box down in the basement, which, as far as junction boxes go, was throwing off relatively smaller amounts of EMF than I've seen a lot of junction boxes throw off. But it's enough that if you're sensitive to electromagnetic fields, that could cause headaches or whatnot, which everybody kind of reported down in the basement. So yeah, you have to take that into consideration. But I caught something that the clients described is their father, while working down in the basement as part of the renovation, heard something that sounded like a growl. Well, my video camera and my audio recorder both caught a very loud, I don't know how to describe it. I call it a growl, but it's not exactly like a deep animal growl. It was kind of, it almost sounded like someone, hawk talk girl, just someone clearing their throat like they're about to spit a loogie out. But it was very guttural sound. Nobody reacted to it because nobody heard it, but my two recorders picked it up. Now, you have to start thinking, what would cause something like that? if you go with the old, oh well, it's a human spirit and some bad things happen, maybe somebody died in the house, blah blah blah, that doesn't explain something like that. And then too quickly, investigators jump on the demon bandwagon and go, oh my God, it growled, it must be a demonic. Yeah, which I dismiss that immediately, because nobody has ever proven that this type of activity is demonic in any way. Americans just fall over themselves believing in the demonic. And while there are some things that are very negative out there, that doesn't mean it's demonic. It's just there are things that are attracted with negative energy. And even a person can formulate negative energy. I mean, we discovered that, and something that recently happened to me, that my own thoughts about my past was creating a negative energy surrounding me that I needed cleared out. And once it was gone, those negative thought patterns disappeared and I no longer have them. But they were of my own creation. It's like we've discussed tulpas before on our shows.
You've worked for tulpas.
Mm-hmm. And the human mind is more powerful than people give it credit for.
That's right.
It can. There's the old saying, you get what you put out, or what you put out you receive back. If you're putting out a lot of negativity, you're going to get some negativity in return. It's like those people who are always getting into bad relationships. Oh gee, I wonder who else that could have been. Guilty as charged. Was attracting bad relationships. And it's those people who have a more positive outlook, a more, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not just positive, but confident outlook. Those are the kind of people you're going to attract to yourself. That's the kind of energy you're going to attract to yourself. And most cases where people are dealing with something they want to call demonic or negative, if you really look into it, a lot of those people are having problems. They're susceptible to negative energies because they're inadvertently putting it out. So like attracts like. Does that make sense to you from your perspective?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. This very much makes sense.
And I'm the first to admit, I'm sure as hell no expert in any of this. I learned more from you than I've learned from anybody else. And even you and I disagree at times. But
not for long, though, because I always prove my point.
Yes, you usually do.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Notice I use the word usually. Anyway. So this investigation was just, for me, I'm trying to get back into investigating. I want to do more investigations. But my end goal is not to entertain myself. My end goal is, if someone is dealing with something that's bothering them or harming them in any way, is to try to do everything I can to help. And that's where you and I working together comes into handy, comes into play, because there's only so much I can do. Yeah. And your experiences and skills are much different than mine. Yeah. So we can work together to try to help resolve a situation.
That's right.
So this other investigation they want to do, if the other people are involved, I'm not going to do it, because I just don't want to sit there and do that same thing. What's that?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You were about to say something, then you cut off.
No.
Okay.
Well, it's just this is this other place is a rented accommodation. Yeah,
The other
they're renting.
place,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if they rent it
Okay.
or own it. I thought they owned it, but
Not so sure.
yeah, probably.
Anyway.
Probably. I don't know.
Mm.
So, uh, if I look back at past investigations, I've mentioned this one many times during our podcasts over the years, so I won't go into detail, but the one I did here in New Jersey that lasted a few years. It was on again, off again, going back in and continuing the investigation, continuing the
Oh, many
research.
many of them are like that. You
That's the
know.
proper way to investigate.
Yeah.
To look at every angle, to go by not only what you can find historically, not only what
Mm.
you can find with equipment, but what your own psychic abilities and senses are telling you.
Mm.
And all of that put together can help lead you in the right
Well,
direction
it
on
builds
what
a
you're doing.
it builds a picture of what you're up against.
And more often than not, it's not a human spirit. Not saying there aren't legitimate, human ghost hauntings. There are, but they're not that prevalent as
Well, I'm
people
not
would
even
think.
100% certain of that.
What's that?
I've got my own views on that, but that's for another show.
Okay. Because there are other things to take into consideration. And the one thing
Yeah.
that I deal with a lot here in New Jersey is things that are attached to the land. You can call them
Mhm.
elementals, or I don't know, but some are spiritual, some are, well, part of those things that we'll talk about in future episodes of Reality Realm. In fact, I
Yeah,
think,
and of course, you get people that laugh at the fact that there could be elementals out there on the land, but in this country, in the UK, there are things that go back hundreds and hundreds of years, like the Green Man. Why do people still put the Green Man up? I've got 3 green men around this. Well, I wish. It's all right. I'm going to get my train of thought back off of the green men. Dirty bitch. I got 3 green men plaques on this property. 1 nailed to a tree, 1 nailed to the front of the house, and 1 nailed to the back of the house. Now, I bought them because I liked them. I thought they were very good. Nice garden decoration. But the belief in this country is that the green man protects the property, protects the garden, and so elementals, to which the green man is obviously one, could actually exist. They could actually exist. And as you know, I've got Noblin the Goblin that runs around the house. When anything goes missing, it's Noblin the Goblin. But
yeah, Noblin the Goblin who poked me in the
yeah,
butt.
so it shouldn't really be poo-pooed because nobody really 100% knows. All they got is the idea of fairies that the Victorians put out. Little evil bitches, fairies meant to be, but the Victorian sense of fairies are lovely little Tinkerbell things. But
Well,
the old
this,
thought of fairies before the Victorian times were these evil things that would take your children from you or swap them for a foundling.
to be perfectly fair,
Yes.
the ideas of that most people hold on to in ghosts and hauntings were developed during
Yeah.
Victorian times
Yeah. Like I
with
said,
when the rise of spiritualism came in.
well, I think it went
And
back before that, but it became popular then. Yeah.
yeah, it became popular then. But that's where everything became more sanitized, and
Yeah.
most investigators approach it from that old Victorian standpoint. somebody dies, they don't know they died, and they're still wandering around the house trying to do what they want to do, their job, or something's holding them back from moving on, or any of these things, when you and I, in our experiences, have discovered there's in some cases, not all, but in some, there's a lot more and different phenomenon going on.
Well, this is it. You look at this. My grandfather, after losing my grandmother at a very early age, he started going to seances at churches. He used to go to the trumpet rising things, where a trumpet would rise off the floor and the deceased would speak through the trumpet. And on the way one day, he had to walk down this lonely road, and he saw a white thing that was looking at him from over a wall. As he approached it, it turned out to be a horse. But he says to this day, till the day he died, that white thing was a ghost. It was a ghost of a horse. But you never see a ghost of a dinosaur, do you?
Mm-mm.
Or anything like that. When you think about it. And how many bloody places does Anne Boleyn haunt? Christ almighty. And Henry VIII, he haunts every place he's ever bloody been in.
But this is the thing.
If he stopped in Red Hill, he'd be haunting it. Everyone, because it's a money-making thing. A lot of it.
And a lot of times people will see a ghost, maybe they see a woman, and they'll just say, oh, it's the ghost of Anne Boleyn. Well, how the hell do you know? Do you know what she actually looked like? Most people don't.
Every photograph, every painting of her, she looks different.
Mm-hmm. So how do you know? I mean, Henry is the distinguished feature of being fat.
And ginger.
But does that mean you see a fat-looking ghost that it's Henry? I need to lose weight. You're gonna do I look like Henry? I don't know.
You're ginger.
Yeah, well, I'm a ginger. I have no soul.
It's true, and these are things that we can be talking about in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And
so much of our opinions and view of the world and reality is colored by cultural bias.
And also, you've got to think about the fact that a lot of what we see and think of as ghosts, could it be our mind actually putting everything in order so you can understand it? Mm-hmm. It's not ghost at all. It's just something you're looking at, and your mind's got to put something on it. Otherwise you go crazy, wouldn't you?
Well, there's so much that's happening in our reality. Again, part of the reason for this show and how we're going to examine all these different aspects of our so-called reality.
Yeah.
I've always said I liken it to the light spectrum. We see a sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum, when in reality it stretches almost infinitely in both directions. Infrared, ultraviolet.
And we both also know, besides a lot of stuff being created by the mind, that the fact is that there's a lot of stuff out there that's not created by the mind. Mm-hmm. And that's the stuff we're looking for.
There's also the fact of dealing with the reality of time, the concepts of times, other dimensions, time slips. I mean, so many different things.
One of my favorite things, stepping in time. Yeah.
Yep. So we're going to be covering that. And it goes back to also what you were saying. Why don't people see spirits or ghosts of dinosaurs? Well, I also think that sometimes...
They only usually go back to about the 16th century, and anything earlier than that just doesn't seem to exist anymore. Because it burns itself out.
Energy dissipates over time, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you're in such really